Being a young person in America right now is not a good thing to be. The world is really doing strange, unusual things never before in the history of the world. The worst economic times in my lifetime. In 2009, we had the H1N1 virus in America. Well, they didn't close McDonald's. They didn't close the airports. This time, for whatever reason, politicians seem to have overreacted and said, we have to close the whole world. You want to know how to be a successful investor, then you go and you do your research and you figure out how to and if you should invest and how to invest, and then you invest. It's not easy. This is not an easy way to make money or to even make a living. So it takes a lot of work, like most things in life.
In 1930, GDP fell by 8.5%. We call that a depression. In 2009, real GDP contracted by 2.5%. We call that a recession. This year, annualized GDP contracted by 33%. What would you call that?
I wouldn't call it good. I would call it a disaster. I would call it the worst economic times in my lifetime. This certainly has been the worst in my lifetime. We've had a huge rally because governments everywhere have printed and spent staggering amounts of money, but it just means the next time it's going to be worse still. Unless you think we'll never have economic problems and market problems again, the next one's going to be worse because the debt. And in 2008, we had a problem because of debt. Since then, the debt has skyrocketed everywhere in the world. So unless you think we're not ever going to have problems again, then the next one's going to be worse. Throughout history, go back into the 19th century, we just use America alone. We've had some staggering economic difficulties at times, but Europe too. Some of the largest banks in the world went bankrupt in previous economic hard times. Some companies that people never thought could go bankrupt collapsed. Don't think it cannot happen. It has happened, and it will happen again. These days are not good for old people. They are not at all good for young people. Whenever there's a problem in the world, people look around for an easy way to solve the problem. We're going to find easy ways. Politicians always find easy ways. Will it work in the long term? As I said, being a young person in America right now is not a good thing to be. We have had worldwide epidemics before, but never before have politicians reacted the wrong way. In 2009, we had the H1N1 virus in America. Well, they didn't close McDonald's. They didn't close the airports. This time, for whatever reason, politicians and academics and journalists seem to have overreacted and said, we have to close the whole world. We've had many epidemics. Never before have we closed the whole world. So in my view, they made mistakes, and that's what has made this so horrible. But we had a lot of debt as well. And so now we have more debt. And next time around, that huge debt is going to leave us all with worse problems. I am looking every day for the place to put my money. I have not found a suitable long-term place yet. I own a lot of US dollars, but not because it's sound. I own it because during turmoil, people look for a safe haven. Because of history, people think the US dollar is a safe haven, so I own it. It's going to get overpriced before this is over, then I'll have to sell it. Could turn into a bubble. I'll certainly have to sell it if it turns into a bubble, but not yet. Yeah, some money's leaving, but not huge amount yet. If you know a currency that is sound and stable and will survive all of this, please do not say it out loud, because I'm looking for that currency. Gold is not a currency. You cannot walk into McDonald's and buy a hamburger with gold. Gold is not a currency now. If you want to use it, go down to the shop and try to buy some bread. We may not have studied economics at an Ivy League university, but we know that when you print money and borrow money, subconsciously, we know this leads to problems. And so more and more of us are turning to gold and silver. If I'm right, gold is going to go much, much, much higher before this is over. Gold may well, it'll certainly get overpriced. It may well turn into a bubble. I hope it doesn't, because if it turns into a bubble, I'll have to sell it. And I never want to sell I want my children to have my gold and silver someday. But the world is really doing strange, unusual things. Never before in the history of the world have interest rates been negative. Never and before has a major bank like the Bank of Japan said, we will print unlimited amounts of money. Sure, Zimbabwe prints unlimited amounts of money. Countries have done it. But now you have major people doing it. So yeah, this could turn into a huge bubble, and gold and silver could go much, much higher. I expect them to go much, much higher before this is over.